Then one day I was filming something and I smashed the camera. I did actually at least break it doing something cool. It was when I was building my tower, putting the top on it. I had it up on the top of the tower on a tripod, filming myself. And I think a big gust of wind got it and it fell all the way from the top to the ground. And I was like, oh man, that's like $400 right there. Let me, I turned on, that's when the day I turned on the monetization thing to buy it, to replace that camera. This is Andrew Camarata here. I have a YouTube channel with my name, Andrew Camarata. I do a lot of construction work, welding work, built a very unique building, which is all covered on there. Talking here with Sid Phillips today. You got a bunch of questions for me here?
Yeah, mate, welcome to the Proper Job podcast. Because what brought me into your video was when you were building the container home. To give a little bit of context to the people listening, you actually built this house yourself with very little help from others. You utilised the vast amount of machinery you have, including your own crane. I mean, building your own place is already pretty impressive, but it's not exactly a normal looking house either. It utilises a bunch of cargo shipping containers, some on the horizontal, some rotated 90 degrees so they're vertical. It's 4 floors high and it's made to look like a castle.
Yeah, pretty much.
I take it was obviously a goal for you to build your own place?
Yeah, that was the goal. That because I mean, who wants to live? Before that, I lived with my parents. Like, who wants to do that? I skipped the whole, apartment phase thing. I just seemed like that was always just a complete waste of money. So I went straight from, and I knew I wanted to build my building the way I wanted to build it. So I was only looking at vacant pieces of property, and that's all I could afford too. So
It's a lovely bit of land though.
yeah, it's up on a hill. I think that's why it was a decent price at the time when I got it, because it was all a hillside. So, but yeah, that's what I wanted on the edge of town, because I didn't want neighbors. I wanted a big lot, because I always do things that annoy neighbors. So it's best just that you need a lot of land for doing stuff like what I'm doing.
So where did the idea come from to build a container castle?
That came from, well, the idea appealed to me because the containers are relatively cheap and are really strong. So I figured I could put up a fireproof building that could go up very fast, and I wanted it to be indestructible as far as not getting damaged from, fire or time or storm. Like one time, Hurricane Irene, I had a ton of trees fall down, knock down buildings, damage buildings. I saw plenty of other people's with their buildings damaged. When I was with the fire department, it was like we'd go to these house fires, and I was like, why would anyone build? And you'd see these houses burn down, and like, why would anyone make something out of wood? That's just crazy. So that's what appealed to me. I made the entire building out of steel and concrete, and since I'm a welder, so it just was a lot easier to build it out of steel anyway. And plus, like, when you start doing the math too, it's almost cheaper to build the way I built. Like, it's kind of expensive, but it's kind of not.
So did you have the design idea in your head?
Yes. Well, it took me a while. I knew I wanted to do something like that. It just took a while to figure out how to do it, because I wanted a concrete roof at first,
Okay.
and I didn't know how to do that. And then someone suggested Spancrete to me, which is like a precast concrete slab that can be a roof. And then once I started learning about all these different materials, it just kind of came together.
I know from watching your videos you're upgrading the house too. You're building on top of the roof, and I've seen you utilising SketchUp, and it seems you're pretty proficient at it. Was that something you learnt in school?
I did not learn that from school. The way I learned SketchUp was when I first designed my building. I got an engineer involved to help me with the plan. So first, when I designed my building, I actually made a little model of it, just out of like balsa wood and wood and cardboard, just stuff like that. And that's something my dad had did too. Once when we put a big addition on our house in the early 90s, my dad actually did a really good job making the addition out of cardboard. But I mean, the thing looks like a photo of the house. Everything's colored right and perfect. And then he essentially showed it to the carpenter and said, "Build this. This is the addition." So I just kind of went the same route. I built my building I made a model. And then when I was talking to the engineer with the plans, he ended up drawing the whole building in SketchUp. And that's how we were able to communicate through, emails, just emailing the building and the revisions back and forth. And then, SketchUp was pretty easy to use. You can teach yourself how to use it with the tutorials that are available. So but that's how I kind of forced myself to learn how to use it.
Tell me a little bit about the heating solutions you have for the place where you live.
It's only one little room I heat.
Right.
So it's really easy to keep it heated, because to try to heat that whole building would be hard because it's enormous. Although I did just install a pellet stove on the second floor, and it definitely warms it up, but it hasn't gotten real cold yet. But it's a huge building and it's not insulated, so heating the whole thing will be a little tricky. But I usually don't care. I mean, I don't mind just letting it be the same temperature as it is outside.
Yeah, just put more layers on, eh?
Well, kinda. I mean, the trick is to kind of freeze yourself early on. Like when you start wanting to put on a coat, like in November, December, the trick is not to just get used to it. And then once it actually gets cold, I'm generally used to it by then. So
How did you get on the school system though? Did you kind of fit in with the whole like sort of lesson planning and structure, or did you find it a little bit tough for someone like you who seems to like to do things his own way?
I did all right. I didn't do as well with some classes in high school, like English and Spanish class. For some reason, I didn't learn a drop of Spanish. That was a waste of time.
Mm.
But I did well with math and science. Those are the ones I did good at.
In the second edition of the build of your house, you do talk a lot about fire safety,
Uh-huh.
and I take it that's come from this volunteer experience.
Yeah, I got a lot of training out of that, and I kind of learned how not to build a building. Spent most of the year just working on my own building, and I'm glad I was in a position where I was able to do that, because I wasn't stuck having to take all these different jobs to make money. I was able to just to do something like that, where whole cost money the whole way, the whole project. But
And you're going to glaze that, are you? You're planning on enclosing that whole metal roof structure?
yeah, pretty much since June, I've been working pretty much full time on closing that whole thing in, and I am extremely close to being done. The all the walls got made out of steel diamond plate with like metal studs. Everything's made out of steel, like thick steel, either 1/8 inch or 3/16 thick. And I put in a bunch of windows, and it's sealed the whole building up.
There's been a lot of work in that, eh?
It's probably 4 or 5 months of work.
Right, okay. Do you enjoy the sense of community on YouTube?
But yeah, I've met a lot of cool people from YouTube too. That one video I put up where I was welding, and then this guy texted me. He's like, "Hey, I live a few hours from you. I watched your video where you got all that welding that needs to be done. That's a crazy amount of work. Can I come up and help you weld?" And I said, yeah. I was like, come over. And the guy was super cool. We ended up going jet skiing a few times this year. And he stayed up there. He was up there like 2, 3 days, just welding full time with me. And we really got caught up on the welding, because at that stage in the project, I was working with 2 other guys putting all the steel in place. And we'd be setting all these big beams and stuff. And then, I'd weld them enough so they're not moving anywhere. But as a full product, I wanted everything fully welded to everything, which really isn't necessary, but I just kind of built it that way anyway. And that was nice that guy came and helped.
So when did you see kind of your sort of, I suppose, success in your view from YouTube?
One day I just noticed I was putting videos up, and I was posting them on, I think, Facebook, just to share with, people I know locally. But then all of a sudden I was noticing I was getting like subscribe. I didn't even realize the subscriber thing. I was all of a sudden like, oh, look at all these people subscribing to my stuff. And I just kept on doing it. And I never even started, I know a lot of people want to get on YouTube because they hear you can make money. And yes, that's true. But I didn't even know that when I first started doing it. I was just doing it for fun.
I think that's the kind of the key takeaway message, and that don't get into things for the money. It's got to be about the passion.
Yeah, 100%. And usually the money it appears even when you're not pushing for it. If you're doing something you're passionate about, whether it's an art or anything, it will make sense if you're good at it. It's cool to be able to, if we do it, it's cool that people are interested in the stuff I'm doing, and I'm able to share it with people, so easily with this great camera equipment that's come out in the past 10 years or so. Yeah, I should have started sooner.
So what are the kind of plans for the future? Did YouTube surprise you? Because I expect you're making a nice living from YouTube.
It's happened slow. I mean, I guess the best way is it's exciting because it opens up, I'm not stuck doing things I don't want to do. So, I mean, like I was saying before, I was able to, I'm not by any means being lazy at all. I spent the whole year working on my building, and I'm glad I was in a position where I was able to do that. As far as future, I mean, yeah, I know the future coming. I can't wait for this building phase that I'm in right now to be done, because I'm going to start taking a lot more jobs for customers again, because that's been pretty light for the year because of the building. So, and people have been asking, like, does this guy take jobs anymore? I'm like, yes, I do. I'm just finishing this building that took the whole year, which, I didn't want to spend a whole year building it, but that's just how long it took. So yeah, there'll be a lot more jobs again. My goal is to take interesting stuff, ideally things that take 1 to 3 days, 4 days, but just stuff that's really interesting that I haven't done before. I mean, I could put some crazy projects out there too, like that I kind of want to do that may not get done. Like I wanted to get this, I'm trying to buy this other piece of property, and I'd love to build a small version of my building. I think that'd be fun.
Okay.
I know people would love that. So, and when I built my first building, the castle, I didn't film it from, day one. So in this case, I could start, like I may do things a little bit differently and then film it from day one. So that's a project I'd like to do.
So kind of the things you've learned from building that and the lessons that maybe you do things a bit differently.
A little bit. I don't feel I made any mistakes on that building. If I was to build that building again, exactly. If someone else wanted that same building, which I think makes sense. I think that is a very practical building to build. It wouldn't be much different. The only thing I'd maybe do a little bit different, because I knew it was going to be, that hot, right now the thing's like 4 stories. I knew it was going to be 4 stories, but it was 2 stories for years before it was 4 stories. Like I'd maybe build the framework a little differently if you're going to do the 4 stories in one shot. But it's not really making it different. It's just.
What's the reason for wanting a smaller building? Is it that's why I was asking about doing things different? Was it the practicality of heating it?
No, no. I thought it'd be fun to build like a little mini castle. It's just like almost a scaled down version, but I was gonna do more concrete, more poured walls. That's something I kind of want to get into, is concrete form stuff.
So, tell me a day in the life, Andrew. Like for the people who, because you said something earlier about coming across lazy, and I certainly don't think you come across as that in any of your videos. What kind of time are you waking up?
I'm not an early person. Usually 9 or so.
Right. Okay.
Maybe 10. I mean, sometimes earlier, depending. But I'm not an early bird at all. Yeah. I mean, as far as day in the life, I don't know. I start to have breakfast and then just go outside and start doing whatever the job is.
Right. So is there a plan in your head?
Yeah. I'll actually. That's one thing I do pretty often. Is I'll make notes of what I need to be doing. I just make lists of stuff to do. List and just cross them out as they get done. So.
And how long are you working for? Because you say about like doing your editing in the evening.
Well, now the days are shorter, but it really depends on the day and the job that's getting done. But yeah, I mean, today I knew I had this, so I came and got ready for it. But I mean, usually there's plenty of editing to do. So like once it gets dark out, I just start editing.
So you work with like the seasons by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So. What is it then you do to relax? Is it editing, or is there, because I know you do your jet skiing and you go off on your ATVs and things like that. Is there anything else that people don't perhaps see that your passions are?
I probably have. I mean, I watch TV sometimes. I maybe watch 20 minutes of TV before bed.
Yeah.
There's stuff on YouTube, mostly educational stuff, but. Not always.
Yeah, you don't really come across as much as a TV watcher, to be honest. Andrew, it's been lovely chatting.
You're welcome.
Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Cheers.